Vladimir Putin has been the most powerful man in Russia for almost 30 years now. You cannot think of Russia without thinking of Putin, just because he's been in power for that long. And so, how is that even possible that a man in a so-called democratic country could hold power for so long? Is he a dictator, or is he just loved by his people? The truth is that Putin has carefully designed a system across a 30 years time frame that allows him to always be in the highest rank of the Russian government. And this system originates from one thing only: his past. In fact, before getting into Russian politics, Putin, as many of you probably know, was an officer for the KGB, the primary intelligence agency of the Soviet Union. But this isn't just an historical data, it's actually much more than that. It was in the KGB that Putin's way of thinking and acting was shaped. And trust me, I'm not exaggerating when I say that. There's various records affirming that when Putin joined the KGB, he was a remarkable and mediocre agent. The agency really did leave a big mark on him. And that was bound to happen because Putin joined the KGB in 1975, when he was only 23 years old. This is an age where you are still developing your personality and identity as a young man. Therefore, he started picking up anything he learned in the KGB environment. Just like you see him walking with his right hand tightly attached to his body as a result of KGB training, the KGB turned him into a calculating, ruthless, pragmatic, self-controlled and smart individual. But on top of that, it was during this time as a Secret Services officer that a fire meant to restore the power of Russia started burning inside of him. And it happened because of a sentence that haunted him for the rest of his life. It was 1989, and KGB agent Vladimir Putin was serving in Dresden, Germany. The communist East Germany, reigned by the Soviets, started to collapse. In Berlin, the famous wall had just fell. People in East Germany were rioting all over the country. And the city of Dresden was of course full of angry Germans too. Those angry Germans started attacking the headquarters of Soviet institutions, such as the Stasi, which was East Germany's police, and of course KGB's headquarters, where Putin was staying. Putin managed to push the angry Germans away by saying they were ready to engage in a fight with firearms. But the situation was still dangerous, and so Putin called the Soviet military command in Dresden for additional military reinforcements. The answer he received was a shock for him. The officer he called said, "We can't do anything without orders from Moscow," and Moscow is silent. 2 years after this call, he left the KGB and got into politics. His goal was the presidency, but he had to climb the ranks first. He did so by working as a deputy mayor to St. Petersburg's first elected mayor, Anatoly Sobchak, who described Putin as a man who gets things done. But guess what? Sobchak was corrupt. He was caught and was arrested. Sobchak was helping local criminal organizations in establishing monopolies in markets and laundering money. And what was Putin doing in all of this? He was helping Sobchak, but Putin was smart and never got convicted. Because of that, Putin caught the eye of the Russian president Boris Yeltsin. Yeltsin was a corrupt president that the Russians hated. He was just a face of the government, but the real leaders were figures that emerged after the Soviet Union fell, the oligarchs. Those people were wealthy individuals who capitalized on the transition of Russia from communism to capitalism. This meant that companies went from being state-owned to private. But to be private, they had to be owned by someone. And that's when the oligarchs stepped in. They called President Yeltsin and told him they were ready to lend money to the broke Russian government in exchange of the shares of each of these companies. And so the oligarchs started managing all of Russia's industries, gaining political power as well. What about Yeltsin? The guy was just enjoying the money and getting drunk every other day. while Russian people couldn't put food on their table, with inequality that surprisingly raised after the fall of Soviet Union. Yeltsin wanted to leave his role of president because he didn't want all the blame on him, but he was willing to do that only at the condition that whoever followed him pardoned him for all of his crimes, guaranteed wealth to him and his family, and also protection. Yeltsin started working on the so-called Operation Successor. You see, in Russia, the highest rank of the government is the president. Below him, there's the prime minister, who's appointed by the president himself. This is the position where in 1999 Yeltsin started experimenting. He appointed 4 different prime ministers in less than a year, but he didn't like any of them, until the 5th one came, none other than Vladimir Putin. Putin was different from the others, and he quickly gained public consensus after shutting down the separatist ideas of Chechnya by displaying strong military strength from Russia. The oligarchs liked Putin, and Putin was ready to satisfy the conditions Yeltsin asked for. The decision was a no-brainer, and on December 31st, 1999, Yeltsin announced on live television he was going to resign, and Putin was going to be the acting president. Putin was completely different from Yeltsin. Why? Yeltsin was a fat, unserious alcoholic who didn't really care about the well-being of Russia and Russian people. He didn't inspire any sense of security to his country. On the other hand, Putin was the living example of a strong Russian man, physically in shape, serious and ready to do anything to pull Russia out of the mess it was in. Putin inspired trust and authority to the Russians. It was what the country needed, and in fact, he won the elections in 2000 and officially became the president. His KGB roots proved to be crucial in his rise to the top. He built a strong network of powerful people to climb the political ladder, and he was willing to agree to compromises if they were beneficial to him in the long run, even if they required him to get his hands dirty with corruptions or pardoning a criminal like Yeltsin. Once the goal of presidency was reached, the job was only halfway done. Putin started to design the system that keeps him in power, which at that point was at the earliest stage, because Putin needed to consolidate his power, otherwise he would have simply been replaced when the next election came. To gain power, he decided to work on 2 things. First, submitting the oligarchs to him, and secondly, gain love and respect in the public eye. When it comes to the oligarchs, Putin knew they held way too much power in Russia, so he needed to strip this power away from them. And he made that very clear in his first meeting at the Kremlin with them in the summer of 2000. Putin simply told them, "You can keep your wealth, but you have to bend to my authority." Some oligarchs accepted, others didn't. Those who didn't ended up in some cold cell in Siberian prisons, like Russia's richest man Mikhail Khodorkovsky, or exiled like Boris Berezovsky, or dead in mysterious circumstances. The message was clear, and all of this centralized the power more than ever into Putin. About the love from the public eye, Putin started controlling media to promote his image as a good leader. Russia also went under a spectacular economic rise under Putin, with a 7% GDP growth every year and poverty reduced from 30% to 14% since Putin started selling oil and gas to other countries. On top of that, Putin reinforced relationships with Western countries, something that symbolized the end of the Cold War even more. All of these things he did increased his public consensus to 80%. I wonder if you noticed the pattern of what Putin was doing. He carefully built relationships that he destroyed once he didn't need anymore. For example, with the oligarchs to gain more control. And control means power. This pattern is typical of an intelligence officer that reflects Putin's past. And this and other patterns typical of secret services officers are the key of Putin's system. A system that we could call intelligence state model. Because Putin treats his role as a president the same as he treated his role as a KGB agent. The intelligence state model that Putin designed depends on 5 core pillars, and each of them are always gradually more important. Number 1, the KGB mindset. This is the foundation of everything. Without this pillar, nothing else makes sense. The KGB mindset represents Putin's worldview and way of acting. In this worldview, politics is about control of information and centralizing power, so that everything is in your control. Also, you always hold a degree of distrust of people around you. For Putin, the state is not an abstract democratic structure, but it's an organism that must be protected at all costs. And if parts of that organism become unstable, disloyal, or unpredictable, they must be corrected or removed. Another core aspect of the KGB mindset is zero tolerance for weakness. Weakness invites pressure. Pressure leads to humiliation, and humiliation, as Putin personally experienced it in Dresden, leads to collapse. That's why Putin values stability above everything else. Chaos is the last thing he wants in his country, and democracy, if it produces chaos, becomes a threat rather than a virtue. The mindset he forged in his 16 years as a KGB agent never left him. It only got scaled on an international level. Number 2. Loyalty and the tight circle. If the KGB mindset is the philosophy, this is the structure that makes it operational. Putin does not govern through strong institutions, but through people. Specifically through a very small and very loyal inner circle that protects him from any external threat. These are not random politicians, these are men he has known for decades. Many of them come from the KGB, the FCB, the military, or his early days in St. Petersburg. Loyalty in Putin's system is more important than competence. A mediocre loyalist is preferable to a brilliant independent thinker, because competence without loyalty is dangerous. This tight circle functions on mutual dependence. Everyone benefits from the system and everyone is compromised by it. Corruption can even be considered structural because it ensures that no one can leave without consequences. Putin also makes sure that no one inside the circle becomes too powerful, so that he can always be in control, just like he did to the oligarchs. Everyone depends on Putin as the ultimate referee, the man who decides who rises, who falls, and who survives politically. This guarantees obedience without the need for constant force. This inner circle, though, doesn't protect him properly from internal threats, like in the case of Yevgeny Prigozhin, but more on that later. Number 3. Manipulation of information. Putin understands something fundamental. Controlling reality is far more effective than repressing it, and reality in modern societies is shaped by information. Early in his presidency, Putin moved to bring major media outlets under state control or influence, not through outright bans, but through ownership changes, legal pressure, and selective enforcement of laws. But information manipulation goes far beyond traditional censorship. Putin doesn't need people to believe everything he says, he just needs them to distrust everything else. If people stop believing in objective truth, they stop believing in alternatives. And if they stop believing in alternatives, they stop resisting. The reality is that controlling information allows him to shape the narratives he wants. Number 4. Building relationships for personal gain. This is something we've seen a lot during this video, and I'm sure you're aware of this strategy by now. It's the same of what he did to the oligarchs, and he does it with everybody else. At first, Putin needed the oligarchs. They control capital, media, and political influence. Fighting them early would have been suicidal, so he cooperated. And then, once his power was consolidated, he turned on them, just enough to terrify the rest. No sentiment, only outcomes, proper KGB style. And that's what Putin does in every relationship he has. Number 5. Neutralizing threats. This is the pillar that ultimately guarantees permanence. From Putin's perspective, threats are inevitable. Opposition will always exist, but the key is not to eliminate threats immediately, but to manage them efficiently. And here again, the intelligence mindset dominates. Putin follows a precise 5-stage escalation model. Stage 1. Ignore. If a threat is small, unpopular, or lacks momentum, the best response is silence. No media coverage or reactions. Many threats die simply because no one amplifies them. Stage 2. Co-opt. If ignoring fails, the next step is absorption. Positions, money, status, protection. Turn opponents into insiders. Resistance becomes collaboration. Stage 3. Discredit. If cooptation fails, credibility is attacked. Corruption allegations, scandals, criminal investigations, character assassination. The goal isn't proof, it's doubt. Stage 4. Constrain. If discrediting isn't enough, pressure increases. Legal harassment, travel restrictions, asset freezes, endless court cases, and so on. And this is what he has done to oligarch Khodorkovsky, for example, or political opponent Alexei Navalny. Stage 5. Neutralize. This is the final stage, used very rarely. Prison, exile, or death. One of those three. And almost always, they're wrapped in plausible deniability. Accidents, illnesses, unclear responsibility. Most threats never reach this stage. The earlier ones are usually enough, and the anticipation of punishment is often more powerful than punishment itself. But at times, neutralizing was necessary. It is the case of Yevgeny Prigozhin, one of the men closest to Putin. Do you know what he did? He decided that he was going to rebel against Putin, using his own personal militia. A few weeks after that, his private jet got blown up. When you put all 5 pillars together, the picture becomes clear. Putin didn't stay in power for nearly 30 years by chance, but because of the way he treats his role as president as the one of a KGB agent. And I'll say this, among Putin's relationships with world leaders, there was one that was actually genuine and real. The one with former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. Berlusconi actually created the blueprint that Donald Trump used to become president. Watch this video to see how.